Quickly Roseanne checked her watch. Yep, dinner was going to be late once again. But, dinner had not been the same since most of her grown children now had their own lives. She had found herself reminiscing about her family and the days of old lately. She missed those days. Gosh, did she just think that? She couldn't believe the thoughts that were crossing her mind. But, she patted the package next to her. She had convinced another doctor to give her a new prescription. Dan had come home to havoc. Roseanne hadn't been home once again. Dishes weren't done. Dinner wasn't done and the house was a wreck. Jerry had been home from college this week and Darlene and her children were making the best of things. Where was Roseanne? Dan was beginning to wonder about her. Oh Dad, can't you take a joke? Dan turned to the sound of the phone ringing. He picked it up and answered the phone in a very irritating way, but his tone changed immediately. On the phone were the police. Roseanne had been in a car accident. She wasn't hurt but needed him to pick her up. When he asked why she hadn't called herself, the dispatcher said she was busy with the tow company. Darlene, your mom has been in an accident. She isn't hurt, but I need to go pick her up. Start something for supper, and with that he ran out of the house. Roseanne had always been a good driver, but in the last 3 months she had been in 2 other accidents. None of her accidents had been anything more than fender bender, but this time she needed a tow truck. Dan was coming up the address that the police had given him when he saw the car up on the truck bed. Oh no, this car was totaled, of that he was sure. The front end looked severely damaged. She had hit several guardrails. What on earth had happened? Roseanne looked up to her husband coming toward her. Dan had been her rock. He was her strong side, and they had been through many years of what she considered a good marriage with 4 children and lots of grandchildren. She smiled and said, I just don't know what happened. I was changing the channel on the radio and looked away just for a second. Are you okay? The car can be replaced, Dan told her as he gave her a big hug. As they got into the only car the family now, Dan looked over at his wife. She looked okay, but something was different. Her eyes seemed to be different. He had noticed it the other day also, but thought for a moment about mentioning it, but by the face she was making he decided to keep it to himself. When they got home, Roseanne finished the dinner as usual and took a seat on the couch. Boy, she thought to herself. She had done it again. Sometimes when she took her pain pills she would find herself zoning out. She had to find a place to hide those pills though. If someone looked in her purse they would see the pills. She had promised Dan that she had stopped taking them, but the pain had been too much. She reasoned to herself that she would stop when she started physical therapy. Donna was in a bind. She had run out of her pills. How could this happen? Desperately she looked for some more. No, she had none. It was time to go to her neighborhood drugstore. Well, that is what they called it. It was a group of women who would trade their drugs for others. She picked up the phone and called Rosine. Dan answered the phone and recognized one of Roseanne's friends, Donna's voice. Dan had noticed that as one of Roseanne's new friends she seemed to call often, but didn't seem to socialize much. It was like a business arrangement. When Roseanne heard the phone and Dan, she knew that Donna needed some of her medicines. She hated giving up some of her pills. They were getting harder and harder for her to find someone that would provide her with them, and the pharmacies all knew her now anywhere near her home. But, the group that Roseanne and her friends had made had agreed, so she told Donna to meet her at the local 7-Eleven store and she would give her some of her hard-earned pills that she had just gotten from a new doctor. The next morning Roseanne had to go to work and her knee was killing her. She now had to borrow Darlene's car and she took 2 pills to compensate. Darlene handed her mom the keys and noticed that she looked very tired. She said, "Don't worry Mom, Dad said he will get a rental car today from the insurance." The insurance? Roseanne gulped. She had needed money and had cancelled all the insurance on her car except collision. She had no insurance that would give her a rental car. Oh man, Dan was going to be pissed. As expected, Dan was not happy with the news. I thought we had insurance, but what could he do? Now they were going to have to take on a car payment and buy another car. Great. Roseanne had to think fast. Dan was going to find out that the bank account was a little low, and how was she going to explain it to him? She had planned on putting the money back but had not had the time. DJ, she would have to ask him. He was one of the few people she could still go to for money. She was into Jackie for over $500 too. DJ was surprised to hear from his mom early in the week. He always made a point of coming over and visiting on the weekends. Now his mom wanted to borrow some money, and a good sum. She was already secretly in debt to her for over $500, and she now wanted another 1,000. But he was making good money and he loved his mom, so he told her okay, she could meet him at the house. Roseanne met her new friend and gave her a few of her precious pills. She knew what it was like not to have the pills and did not want to judge someone. But Donna didn't work, and geesh, she reminded her of a junkie. Thank God I am not like that, she thought. When Roseanne got the call from DJ, she was relieved to hear that he had the money. She really needed it now because there would be a huge chunk due with a down payment on a car and new insurance. DJ had turned out to be a good man and understood about the accident. Jackie was surprised to see DJ there during the week but kept her mouth quiet. And he said he was there to make sure his mom was okay. She knew that it was going to be hard to find a car that they could afford. The next day was Saturday and Dan and Roseanne headed out to the car shop. She didn't look forward to it and it took them most of the day. Finally they agreed on a 2-year-old Ford with low miles and a few accessories that she liked. The car would be ready on Monday, and so things were starting to look up. Roseanne was on her way to making things good, but her knee was killing her and she was starting to get shaky. Dan wasn't happy with the new expense. He would have to work overtime for many weeks to pay for it. He was surprised that the usually talkative Roseanne had been strangely quiet over the accident. He asked her, "Is everything all right? You seem so distant lately." Roseanne looked over at Dan and smiled. "Oh, I am sorry. Work has been a hassle and this accident has got me a little depressed. Thanks for not yelling about it," she told him. She needed to get back to the house as she had no more pills on her and she needed one now. Just before bed Roseanne took 3 more pills. That night she went to bed and never woke up.